Hello, Problematic Boy here. This is the second take, because the first take I started my stream and thought I was recording when I really wasn't. So that's really cool. Um, so here's our actual starter. I'm gonna run through it a little faster this time. It's Champion Spark. Now I leveled. My first character was a Bone Shatter Berserker. Um, and I got that to maps, and then I couldn't do a harvest, and I was frustrated, and I rerolled. Like, I could not complete the harvest. It just the mobs were too crazy. So I needed something that had range and good damage, so I went with Champion Spark, and it also needed to be a little tanky, so I have Fortify. Um, I had a Gold Rim and Wanderlust, so I just leveled from level 1 with Spark Duelist, and I had Lily Roth in the hideout so I could get all my gems. That's basically what my experience was. I died a lot in Act 4 while leveling this character because I didn't have an Ascendancy, I didn't have Fortify, and I didn't have armor on my character at the time because I needed the links. I'll quickly go over our gear. Gear is pretty shit. We are capped Chaos Res though. Amulet is probably the best piece because cast speed. Um, Helmet with Res and Chaos Res. Just a regular +1 lightning scepter. And then a Scepter of Cast Speed, Spell Damage, Chaos Res that I don't even need, and Lightning Damage of Spells. Onslaught Boots, Belt, Life, Chaos Res, Gloves, Dual Res, Life, Life, Chaos Res, Crafted Res, Armor, Chaos Res Rain with Crafted Life, an okay-ish Coral Rain. And that's basically what we've been running with. In our link setup, the only interesting thing is I'm running Spell Echo and Unleash. I just like the way it feels right now. And then we'll talk about essentially why I'm running basically this setup with no added lightning damage at all from any source other than Innervate on our Orbit Storms and a Lightning Pen. So we will talk about that. Anything else I need to talk about? Yeah, we're doing yellow maps. Our damage is really good. Our damage is probably good enough for early red maps, including Infinite Hunger and Black Star. I'm, at least the tutorial versions of those fights, I'm not expecting any trouble from them. We have broken into yellows. Our damage on the yellow tier map bosses is really good, like I said. You can look at the tree real quick. We're just starting Duelist. I did just recently get Prismatic Skin. We're moving up. It's Petrified Blood Memes, so we get Pain Attunement, which is nice. We're coming up here, getting all the lightning stuff. I'm getting some recoup now. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. And then we grab this over here, and this is good too. All of it is good. We're also EO right now. Eventually, I think we do go crit once we get Omega Gear. But right now, EO's giving us plenty of damage. So that's the tree. Uber Lab, which we are ready to do, I'll do it whenever I feel like it, is really important because it gives us basically adrenaline for 20 seconds whenever I want it. So that's just a massive amount of damage, cast speed, fist damage reduction, all good stuff. So let's talk about the Archnemesis adjustments I made because of the Archnemesis mods. A little bit about Sentinel League, and mostly about the mod pool. So, yeah, while mapping, I've had to make an adjustment, right? Since I'm not an Inquisitor, we're running in Orbit Storms with Hex Touch Conductivity, and we're not running a Sniper's Mark at all. Now, for bosses, I think Sniper's Mark is still the go-to play here, but the difference between Conductivity and Sniper's Mark, I'd rather just have a better mapping experience. The issue you run into while mapping is that res reduction becomes even more important. It becomes super important because you're randomly going to run into mobs that have either extra. In this case, the deal is that it's a very common mod for mobs to have immunity to shock, which first off, we're inflicting 40 to 50% shocks on all the map monsters, right? Except for these ones. So we're immediately losing about 40% damage. And then, to top that off, they gain an insane amount of lightning res and max lightning res. So res reduction becomes super important in that case, and I need to be cursing pretty much preemptively, because it's better to curse preemptively and just have the orb help with clearing than it is to check each monster. So if I'm cursing and I'm running Lightning Pen, main linking Lightning Pen, it's not as noticeable, and the mapping experience can actually be pretty smooth, but I did have to make that adjustment to the build since I'm not an Inquisitor. If you were playing, for instance, an Elementalist or something like that, you're probably going to want to curse on hit Hydrosphere setup, and that will lower the res even more, and probably feel even better than what I'm doing here. But you wouldn't have Fortify, which is the whole point of doing this. And eventually wouldn't have Adrenaline, which is also the whole point of doing this. So that's sort of the adjustment that this build can make. I mean, there's not really much else to make. Unleash was kind of an adjustment for that. I was four-linking faster casting, Spark, Pierce, Lightning Pen. So running Lightning Pen in the four-link with faster casting. And then it felt a lot better once I switched to Unleash. Because the damage is front-loaded. And a lot of times, that's just the extra you need to kill the enemy. Especially a magic pack that is lightning resistant. Is you just need that damage front-loaded a little bit. And Unleash really help with that. I find now that I'm mapping in yellow maps, I tried it last night for like an hour before I went to bed. Spell Echo and Unleash feels really nice too, because you get an extra repeat from your 4 seals from the Spell Echo, but you also, when you have the opportunity to just stand still and cast, sometimes you're getting that extra seal, but it's always repeating, right? And you do get a lot of damage out of that. So I do like it. It makes the mapping feel smoother. It makes the bossing feel smoother, especially when you can't when you can't just keep casting, when you have to move or dodge something, and your seals build up a little bit. It definitely feels a lot better on bosses. And I'm sure that in situations with I can imagine with Black Star, it's going to feel really nice because you have to move around and sort of keep alternating and all that kind of stuff. It's going to feel good. Pantheon, I forgot to mention Pantheon. We're running Soul of Arcali for reduced damage over time. It's really important. And we're running Garcon for the reduced shock effect, which is also really important. As far as the Archnemesis mods go, and the whole sort of fiasco with that, all I will say is, yeah, it obviously came out overtuned. I've noticed noticeable improvements every fix they've done. Now, they didn't really... I don't think they did anything with Part 3. They just released their Part 3 thing, which was kind of funny. They listed the modifiers, because if you're playing a build at this point, you know which modifiers fuck you, and pretty much every build has a modifier that fucks them. If you're playing a lightning build, it's the storm ones that you're going to notice, right? The lightning ones, because they give a ton of lightning res suddenly. There's always, and if you're fire, it'll be the fire. If cold, it'll be the cold. And even if you're a physical build, they get a lot of fizz reduction too. So the thing about physical builds compared to elemental builds is that it's actually kind of easy to add on extra overwhelm. You have a lot of sources of that on the tree. It's not easy, for instance, to just get more lightning pen. Like, it's like a harder task, right? Or get extra cold pen. Just get it, forehead. So even though that is the case, even physical builds, my Bone Shatter build is a physical build, you definitely notice when you run into a mob, right? That is either blocking a lot or has the fizz damage reduction. So there's always a mod that interrupts your mapping experience that's very common and fucks you. And I think it's maybe a bit too common, right? I feel like that's one of the issues that is maybe popping up. And then, of course, you can get rare combos where they're stacking even more res and they're blocking spells and all that stuff. And you just end up with mobs that I would say every so often are... It's fairly consistent, right? It's not every map, maybe, but you'll end up with mobs that are tankier and do more damage than the map boss. And I don't think that should be the way it is. So on to Sentinel. I like it. I like these little guys. I like using them once my build has gotten strong enough, which I feel like it is at this point, to just start. I use them in most maps, you just hit the button and they do the thing. and it feels really rewarding. I get a lot of currency. I've gotten a lot of 5 links. Unfortunately, I had to sort of manual harvest this one myself. Harvest 5 links myself, because I was only getting, like, weapons, and I think I got a 5-link Bramblejack or some shit. But I was getting a lot of 5 links. Got, like, a few 5-link staffs. I mean, they just give a bunch of stuff, right? Scarabs, they give a lot. They give a lot of currency. I think they're just good. Ooh, I'm almost at maximum power units, too. I see I'm powering all 3. I think maybe my one issue with the league is that I think the red one is probably just the best one by far. This red guy. The Stalker Sentinel, or whatever it's called. So maybe specializing it in, yeah. Maybe specializing in Stalker Sentinels is just the way to go. Because they're just so strong. And they can empower any enemy. They follow you around, which is good. They have a good chaining range and all that stuff. A good range. I don't know if they chain. Maybe they do. I don't know. But it might be a good idea just to set up your controller for that. I'm having fun just using 3. And that's about it. If you're interested in the Champion Spark, I mean, I feel like it's a character that once you have Lily Roth in your hideout and maybe a unique or two to help leveling. I mean, I only had a Goldrim, just a Goldrim, and Wanderlust. But, yeah. And I guess another interesting thing is we're running Arctic Armor before we get any other kind of freeze immunity. I think we're just going to be stuck with Arctic Armor. It works well enough. And that, I think, is it. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you're interested in this Champion Spark, just let me know. I can give tips or just send my character POB over to you. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.